Welcome to the Church Sound Podcast, part of the Repurpose Network, where kingdom culture, real life, and technology intersect. I'm your host, Prentiss Thompson. What we do? We talk to real people, pastors, leaders, engineers, tech people, manufacturers, worship leaders, all about church, technology, and provide solutions for a successful Sunday morning service. You ready? It's time to take a ride. Let's go. Yes. Welcome to another edition of the Church Sound Podcast. I am your humble host, Mr. Prentiss Thompson. And I love it when I have to bring people here that's really going to bless your church, bless your life. Technology is a very important thing because we're here to connect people with technology to bring the message of Christ to the world. That is, I don't know about you, if you read your Bible, it is called the Great Commission. And that's what we're here to do. So, before we get started, make sure you like, subscribe, review, and share. And call a friend. Send it to your tech team. Send it to your pastors. Send it to your pastor's pastor. How about you send it to a really good friend that could really need some poignant information? Well, before we get started, and while we get started, I have a great guest. This gentleman emailed me, which is a rare occasion to get an email from a CEO of a company. I mean, it blew my mind. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs of all ages, please welcome to the show, Gordon Daly, the CEO and co-founder of BoxCast. Welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you so much. So good to be here.
Hey, man, I'm excited for you to be here. I was blown away when I got your email because I'm going to tell you something that you didn't know. You got me off the couch because I was really contemplating not doing the show anymore.
Bring you back on the listen. Prentiss, I saw you present in front of other folks. I like the idea of the way you go about things, and I think that your heart's in the right place because if you get that right, you just hang there long enough, things start to turn the way you want them to. So it's my privilege to be here.
Thank you for being here. So, those of you who don't know what BoxCast is, could you please explain that first? Because I think that is kind of the nucleus of, it's kind of the gateway to remote mix.
It really is. It's kind of how we got our way to remote mix. So if I were to rewind the clock 15 years-ish, we started to play a little bit with live streaming because of all things. My friend was running a funeral home and he said, I want to be able to share this funeral to people that can't be there. And we thought to ourselves, no one's ever going to want to watch a funeral service. This is way before COVID, right? And as technology,
What year was this?
This was 2009, 10-ish.
Wow.
Or 8, 9-ish maybe. So yeah, 15 years ago. And so my buddies, they were working with them pretty closely. They said, well, we can help you with that. So when we started to dig into it, it was pretty messy, pretty complicated. And then streaming really wasn't a thing. I mean, this is long before Facebook Live, long before YouTube TV. And there was a whole set of problems that people had that, we kind of thought, this is probably going to be something that could be big one day. So let's start looking to see how we can solve the problem. And we found a way to do it in a way that we thought that community organizations, especially churches, could be successful doing if we could just automate it.
Right.
Because it was so technical, it was so hard that we thought if we could automate it by putting everything into this little box, the day jobs were making special computers for industrial automation, airline control lighting systems, for roller coasters, for all kinds of neat things that they really need to work. And if they don't, then people either die or lots of money worth of equipment gets lost.
Die is the key factor here.
It's living's important for all of us, right? But it's back then Windows 95 computers didn't really work as reliably as computers do today, and so we ended up building custom hardware and software to solve these problems. And lo and behold, moonlighting at night, we had a funeral home. It's like, I don't know how to make any of this stuff work. And we're like, we'll find a way to automate it for you. And we did it. And computers are fast now, but back then they weren't fast enough to really do the video streaming. And so we started building our own computers. And hence that's the start of the box of BoxCast, is that we knew if we could pack it in there, just make it plug and play, just power it up, put the audio and the video in, and go straight to your website. Then anybody could stream. And so
Yeah.
that was the genesis of BoxCast originally.
So what spawned the thought process of remote mix?
Well, if you fast forward the clock, a decade or so, now COVID has happened and everybody was in a rush to figure out how to stream. And we were happy to be there with a product that they needed in that moment of need. And so we were pretty successful selling a video streaming solution because it was so easy to use and it works really well that we started to go back and figure out of our customers what were their hardest problems they had to solve. And it was always audio, was always one of the biggest. Outside of networking, audio was always the hardest problem. But for me personally, the concept of remote mix became a passion, just born out of me not being able to literally even hear my own church service. And I'm not alone in this. Even now, we probably do about we do over 1 million church services a year as a business. And of those, I would say the majority of them really have some severe shortcomings when it comes to audio. And it's not anyone's fault necessarily. It's because the front of house guy that's mixing, he's doing a great job for the in-house mix, but it's the people that are listening remotely are kind of an afterthought. And there's a whole set of problems that are preventing them from hearing the kind of quality that they really should be if people were able to give it the time and effort it deserves.
Right.
I mean, to make a long story short, I can't go to church every single Sunday. We go to as many as we can, but when we can't be there, we want to tune in. I mean, I'm a CEO of a live stream. Of course I want to tune into my own church's live stream. But what would happen was the front of house guy would have the audio about right for maybe a little bit loud for the worship portion of the service. But then when it came time to announcements or the pastor speaking, the audio level is just so much lower because they don't really have to amplify it that much in the room because the audience is perfectly quiet. I mean, you can hear a pin drop in there, right? But when they're worshiping and the band's going and everyone's singing and the audience is all singing their hearts out, the glory to God, that's the way it should be. It's the way you want it to be.
Right.
That audio level that's going through the speakers is just so much higher, right? So what ended up happening is this massive dynamic range, that
There's no rebounding from it.
People don't, and still today. And the thing that is the kicker is that you have some of the most incredible front of house engineers that are in the room that can do a pretty good job if they give the attention to the live mix, the live stream mix, but they're tainted with the audio bleed. Not every church has an isolated sound mixing room.
Right.
And so, you're going to have what happened. Churches like, we know we need to improve. Let's get a secondary set of equipment. Let's duplicate all the equipment. Let's duplicate with another volunteer and have them just sit beside them and just give it the attention it deserves. And it helps. It does help. But I still couldn't hear it because it wasn't loud enough. Because it's just instinctual, even with the headphones on, as the noise comes through, to kind of mimic the levels along with what you're experiencing. You feel the bass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the sounds comes through the headphones. And so it was still off. And I just was beside myself in frustration because if I can't even hear my own sermon, it's like, if people aren't, who's going to be able to hear if no one is sent, right? I mean, they couldn't even, like, there's someone who was sent to church, but you can't even hear them because it's not coming through. Anyway, I know I'm making this story a lot longer than maybe it could be, but it was just out of my own desire and need and realization that there is a missed opportunity here. And when I got into it, I'm like, it's just too expensive on equipment, right? I mean, there's a whole set of reasons why. It's the awareness of knowing it's a problem, right? It's the having someone that's willing to help to do it, to give it the attention it deserves, because the front of house guy can't really do both really, really well. It's the skill level of that person. It's whether the equipment is there to even support them to do it. It's if the venue is accommodating for them to do it. It's, it's understanding what the playback devices are like people are listening to.
Right. Right. I think about this because I'm not only a front of house engineer, I'm a recording and a mix engineer, studio engineer. And I remember when this happened. When this happened, and you would mix records and you would turn it into the label, and and you weren't really referencing your mix on something that would come out of a iPod or earbuds or open ear headphones, you will find that you're missing a lot of the low frequency because you're EQing it for the club, car radio, boom box, and that's how we tested our mixes. We would mix, run down to the car, put the CD or the tape in the car, hit the and you judge it because this is where your audience would be.
I know, and your audience knows that that mix sounded amazing in the studio, and then they went to the car, and it's like, "Oh, what happened?" Like, it's
Right. Right. So your
yeah.
reference point changed because of how we use technology. So technology today is iPods, earbuds. Very rarely are car radios even factored in because you have more people with this than have a car. So now your audience is on a device. So now you have to mix for the device. So I found myself having to do separate frequencies for the bass so that the bass, because after a while, when you're mixing a record, you start to believe what you're hearing. You start to imagine the bass. You start to imagine because you know it's there. So you're not factoring it into it. Then I started doing MP3s to my phone and listen to my phone. I said, I don't hear the bass because I'm imagining the
Well, and
bass.
what's so fascinating, and this is a tough game for mix folks because, you know, every different streaming service has different types of encoding
Exactly.
compression,
Yeah.
and they're all a little bit different. So it's like, how do you get this problem is it's a deceptive problem because you don't really see it at the onset, and but it hits the viewer in the end, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's and I had to totally change my concept of mixing. So then I fast forward that to churches where if the guy who's mixing, like 9 times out of 10, if I mix front of house, usually the church that brought me in the mix, normally they don't have a guy mixing for production. Normally the two mix is left and right. That's the two mix. So you're like, okay, how can I make this sound okay? Or if they have an aux and they'll tell you, oh, this is for the live stream. So, like you said, you can't do both great. I could, because the people in front of me is the one who's going to complain, right? So the people, the people who are
Yeah,
on their laptops, on their on their iPads, on their phones, those are the people that you don't see.
yeah.
So your sense of priority changes immediately because you're dealing with people turning around going, "Hey, what's that?"
I know, but it's so unnatural though for a guy to think mixing first on a speaker like you're suggesting,
Right,
right? And that's kind of the genesis of the remote mix. That was the breakthrough, Prince. How do I get somebody out of that room listening on the kinds of speakers that most people are listening to? Because then you're tuning for what they're hearing,
right,
right?
right, right. And I tell people all the time, it's a different experience. It's a completely different experience. But what you want to do is replicate what people see on the screen, or you want to make sure they have a pleasingly great audio experience because sometimes people don't factor this in, but there are people who rather listen than watch. So now your church has a podcast, right? Now you have your service on a
Hey,
podcast.
podcast. Hey, audio's back, radio's back, podcasts are here, right? The world didn't turn into video.
Exactly. So now how do you make sure that that audio is nice and crispy, and how you recording it? Are you mixing it? Are you doing compression? Are you doing bus compression? Like what are you doing to bring it to that level? So now this is what happens with churches. I found that their audio mix on their podcast is better than their service
Oh, every time,
because they
every
got
time.
time. They have time,
And they're mixing with that's the only audio they hear.
right?
They have the time.
Right. So let's dive into the workflow of how this works, and is there a mixer specifically that works with it, or is there a collection of mixers? Um,
It's a great
let's
question.
back up.
Yeah.
How does it work? Let's
So
do
let's
that.
let's y- it's really this simple. There's no new equipment to buy, right? What we're enabling is someone that's not in the venue with a browser on a computer anywhere in the world to in real time both hear and control the mixer. And they can also see what's happening on stage. That makes it as if they're there in person. They just can be anywhere now to break them of that barrier of being biased by information they shouldn't be using. So, maybe I could even just give you just can I share my screen?
Please.
Yeah, let's do that. Give me a second to share my screen.
Why you do that? Is there a specific browser that it works with?
We're really focused. Chrome is the best.
Okay.
So you're going to want to use Chrome with it, which is freely available and it's super high performant. And it, from a compatibility standpoint, it's just works on all the different devices without having to make it just right. When you go to remotemix.com now, there's a wait list because we can't service everybody immediately. It's taken time to roll this out, but the idea is really simple. Well, there's actually two ways to do it. One way is you have one of our encoder devices on site, which you can see right here, and that encoder device, it's on the same network as your church, just talks to it. And it really is, it's almost every brand that's out there. So what we've done is gone and we've got compatibility now with almost all of the brands. And so chances are, if it's got a network connection on it, there's a pretty good chance that we've got it in support, or we're going to try to add it soon. And the idea is that our little box that's on site or software on a computer that's on the same network can talk to the mixer and then relay that information up to the internet to our servers that then puts it into the browser so that when you go to log in at to use the remote mix service, you can just from a browser log in. Right now, we're going to make it so you can log in at remote mix, but for now, we've got people logging in at BoxCast, and you don't even have to have a BoxCast paid plan to do this. You just need a BoxCast account, but we're going to have a remote mix account very soon so that you can do your own without having to have a BoxCast account. They're kind of one and the same, but the idea is then you just log in on a browser anywhere in the world to then get access to that control mixer, to hear it in real time, to see it operate. So when you first get in and you log in for the first time, you just go and you create a connection. So I'm going to click create a connection. And here's where you pick which of your devices, whether it's a computer with our little software on it or a device that's there. And you choose it. And then, well, I'm already connected because I have a connection, but then you'd pick the brand that you have. And so these are the brands that we support now: Allen Heath, Mackie, the Behringer, and Midas brand, which not everyone understands, but it's the same company that owns both the Midas and the
Right.
Behringer line. It's called Music Tribe. Presonus, Soundcraft, Yamaha. You pick which one you want, and then you can pick which model type you want. So we've got support for the DMs and the TFs of those. Allen and Heath, we have all of the Allen and Heath supported, even the CQs. So, I mean, this is both big and small, right? Big churches, small churches. Everybody has an X32. So I'll probably demo the X. So you hit search the network, it shows up, and you hit boom to connect, and then you have a decision to make. Do you want to have access to this device? Do you want the person that's remote to only have some, subset of functionality so that they don't mess up anything that's in front of house? If you have one mixer on location, you don't want someone remote to control everything unless they're a super administrative person that's helping the junior guy, unless the
No,
senior guy's remote.
no, but you really don't.
No, you don't, right? It's dangerous. But so what you do is you add a little PIN number to it, and you make it so that only a person with that PIN number who has an account on your account can get access to do just what you want them to do. Maybe they just have access to the Livestream mix bus. That's it. That's all they need to get started with it. And so once you've got that set up, is it a dedicated console? For some people have a second console that's just for streaming. We call that a dedicated console. And then you can let them have access to everything because they're using the main LRs
Right.
for the live stream.
Right.
Right. So you have to make the decision. But once you have the connection set up, then you just click on it. So I'm going to go back to our, and I've got a whole bunch of them here. So let's just connect to, we've got a ton of these. We've been testing these for years, right? So that's why there's a lot in here. But if I go to the X32, I know I've got one here. That's probably the most popular one. I hit connect, and boom, you can see it just gets right in. It's as if you're in front of the console itself. You can see all of the channels. So right now, of these 4 options, I've got channels shown, and I can kind of scroll through to see all of the different channels that are 1 through 16, and then 17 through 32, and then the aux buses and the effects too. Um, you get access to all the matrix sends, everything. I mean, we also have created a really neat. And let me go back. You get access to the mains. We've also created a really neat way to make this even simpler for a volunteer.
Like create like DCAs.
Exactly. You nailed it. So what we did was say, hey, what if the volunteer who you've recruited to help do this, who lives 3 hours away, that's why they listen to your. Okay, let me back. I'm sorry, I'm going too fast. One of the biggest problems our customers have, or people that should be streaming, is I don't have a person to help. Well, if you have someone listening to your service remotely, they have a vested interest. They want to help. They want to make it sound better for themselves and others. What you can do is recruit them as a part of the tech team, just as a remote tech. Give them a very, very simple access. Hey, listen, you just need to touch a few things. That's all. Here's the bass, here's the drums, here's the vocals. Maybe that's all they need to do. And if you can mute any of them at any point in time, right? But make it really simple for them. Say, oh, I want to look at those vocals. Maybe they want to highlight the female vocal. This is just a way to make the interface really, really simple for someone that makes it not intimidating. Because one of the hardest things to do is to bring in new folks, because this is such an intimidating environment. What a great way to learn the first time, to help get started, to get more people into the volunteer with the church.
I think this just the concept alone of remote access having its own GUI, so it's not a manufacturer specific because it's universal, right? Secondly, because it's that person does not have to learn that console.
Oh, you know what? And they can actually now use any console, because this is the same interface for every brand,
Right.
yeah.
Which makes it even more attractive because now you kind of remove the fear factor from the audio team. Like, so the guy who's in charge of it said, oh my God, I gotta teach this guy or this girl how to use the
It
X32
isn't even worth the
or the
investment.
M32
I know.
or Soundcraft or the SQ, which have, because they all digital consoles are the same, but it's how they lay it out is different. Where's the EQ? Where's the compressor? Where's this? Where's the bus? Where's this? How do I get to this page? That's the confusing part when you teaching somebody how to use the console. Back in the day with an analog console, it's like, all right, here's the channel one, here's all your EQ, here's your auxes. Now, because of the accessibility of all this technology in this one box, you've confused everyone because now they have to learn how to use that console. It's not like driving a car. This is driving a car.
Well, and there's one more layer of complexity that makes that problem even worse. And it's that they only get a chance to play with it, to test it, when there's live fire,
Right,
And so it's super risky to have them train. Like, you have to have such heavy oversight to help, and like help them undo a mistake.
right,
What's so cool about this is that you can give someone their own testing mix bus that can be recorded if they want to be review it later, and they can play to their heart's content without affecting the live stream, without affecting the actual broadcast or the front of house or anything, in a way for them to actually get some of that live fire experience, to even just to see trial and error. Because most of the time you tell everybody to go back on stage to rehearse everything again. I mean, I guess you can you can do virtual rehearsals. Sure, you can record all the channels if you want to, but this is just a great way to do it. Great way, another way to make it easier for them to test.
right, right. And I think the cool thing is that because you can set up DCAs, which is like this is like the bread and bones of, please, you cannot screw this up. You cannot screw this up. But you can even make it better for people who are more experienced. You can say, I can have a DCA for female, I can have a DCA for the males, I can have a DCA for drums, for guitar, for
And you
bass,
know what's so
for
great
the
about these?
pastor.
Here's what's so great about these DCAs don't even require you to put them into the console. These can be separate.
Mm.
So if you don't have enough room for DCAs and you're out of DCAs, these are called virtual. They're virtual DCAs that we're doing as a
Oh.
layer on top too. So you don't have to have the compatibility of the DCA functionality in the console.
Oh,
You
wow.
won't even mess with it. Yeah, it's abstracted at our server level to make it safer for the
That is
user.
amazing, 'cause that even removes more of the fear factor because that would be a question. I don't have enough auxes.
Yeah, I mean, they go quick when hey, I want to use 6 of them for my IEM,
Mhm.
in-ear monitors for the people
Right.
on stage.
Oh,
Like,
and the worship pastor, he wants his in stereo, and now the guitarist went there in stereo,
oh,
and
you just doubled them all. Yep.
now you just double them all. I only have 16. I have 16 singers.
Well, the other thing that's kind of neat is this. Yeah, we can talk about it more. We can go along with it. Let me just back up. I was you can help get IM mixes tuned in too. But what I want to show is um, a preview, so you can actually hear the audio in real time. So if I were to unmute the audio here, or actually and the video, your choice, audio or video, you'll see that you can start to hear the music playing, right?
Wow.
And you hear her voice. So I'm gonna lower her volume, and you can see she disappears, right? So, I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. This is actually a real functioning thing. Pull her back up, and you can see how that DCA operates. Maybe I'm not hearing enough drums yet. Actually, I don't know if there's drums at this point anyway, so I should do something else. Maybe the guitar, you know, just mute all of the guitars, and they just boom, they're gone.
Wow.
So what I like about this, let me back up for a minute. Normally, you'd see the stage in the video preview, but for this demo for you, Prentiss, what I wanted people to see is that you can, on an individual basis, you can see that you notice. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can see this, but on my screen, I have a layout up for those channels that match exactly what's the channels on the
Okay.
broadcast. So on
Oh,
this
yeah, yeah, yeah,
console,
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna turn my volume down just for a minute so that I don't have to overtalk the audio here. And notice that volume is the playout of my computer, not the source it's going to the stream. So I turned that down so it didn't overrun me here. But what I want to show is that, let's say I bring the kick all the way down, right? Look what happens to the kick. Boom. Instantly you can
Wow.
see the sends on fader for this stream
Oh,
mix
that's
target,
crazy.
right? You can see it can be a little bit creepy, if you're watching this thing move on its own, because it's like ghosts
It's
are
a ghost in the
moving.
machine.
Exactly.
The Holy Ghost.
But I thought it's helpful to see, and you can pop this out onto a different. I'm not going to, but you can pop it out into a different monitor, and you got the full screen of the services happening.
Wow.
And this is perfect too. So for those that have video mixing along with their audio mixing, they can have their multi-view show all of the camera angles and what the video team is going to set up for their next shot, which is all information that makes it easier to know when to unmute that next.
Right.
So you're actually beating the video switcher guy. If he's not moved over and someone's got a mic and they're walking towards the stage,
That music is really loud now.
you can catch it. Exactly. You can catch it.
Wow.
So I'll turn the music off. But I thought it'd be great to just have actually a real run demo there. We've got all this, all the individual channels running through, and you can hear how we can
So
selectively
let
change
me
them.
ask you a question. So what if the church has one console, right? And so what do you do? Select an aux? How does
So
it
if they
work?
have one console and you want to, here, let me back up. I'm gonna do this. Let me disconnect this from the mixer, right? And then I'm gonna create a connection. I'm gonna use that same guy. Oh, not that one. We're gonna use the one that we just disconnected from. I'm gonna pick pick the same one. We'll do it over again as if we were doing it for real. Oh no. Oh, maybe we'll mix it up. We'll try. You want to try a different?
Yeah, let's try the SQ.
All right. Well, then I'm gonna have to disconnect the SQ. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, SQ is not connected. So
Wing.
no, that's the Behringer. I'm gonna do an SQ here. We'll create a connection to I think this one's. If I want the video to show for the SQ, I think I have to pick that one. No, that's not the one. I'm sorry. I wish I knew. maybe we're gonna have to demo the wing. Do the wing here. Search the network. You can see here it is. I pick it, select, and I connect to it. Now, after I connect to it, it's gonna give me the option to give it a name.
There it is. I'm famous.
Here's where if you want to give it a passcode, you can, so that only people with a passcode who are logged in can get to it. And you pick here whether it's dedicated for mixing, which means you're going to have access to everything, or in the scenario you're talking about, which is only have one. This is my front of house. They do that. Now's where you choose which mix target is the one that's used for the live stream, so that you don't mess up front of house. We'll say we'll do mix 1. Create the connection, and then that connection's there. And I hit connection name. Hold on, print.
This is great because
Here it is. Connect to it. And now you can see that I can only choose that one mix bus to mess with.
gotcha.
I can't mess up anything else.
So even from this, I can still create DCAs.
Yep.
So basically, I'll create. So basically, it's virtual DCAs inside of this mix, i.e., aux. That's amazing.
Yep.
That's
so
amazing.
inside of that aux bus, on each of the sends, which ones do I want to include in that? So if I had like these 4 channels I wanted to be in that DCA. I didn't spell it right. Forgive me for that. But anyway, now you've got it there, and then they're what show up. So I'll just get it and delete it. But you got it. Yep.
That is wow. The reason why I because my heart is for small churches, and there are more small churches than there are mega churches. So I look at it as being impactful in the sense of you're reaching more people in this position. Outside of the 25 churches that I know that are small churches, there are 25 pastors. That's like maybe 100 tech people, maybe 2 front of house engineers per church. And now you have the technology to be able to grow your team. At the same time, you don't have to purchase a second console.
No, and you know what the other thing is, Prentiss? We really believe in wanting to enable every church to be able to do this. We're not even charging for the remote mix product for everything for the audio and the control. We don't even have a fee for it. We're offering it for free. I can't do that for the video though. I mean, the video costs us a lot of money to do the real time video for. So it's like, I think we're going to try to keep it to around $8 a month is what it's going to end up costing if you want video too. But I mean, come on, if you want someone to be able to mix, this technology is incredible. Why not? Why not give it a shot to do that? And we believe that it's going to make a really big difference in an impact to help these live streams be more effective for organizations. So, I know that'll help our live streaming company. But what I think is the key here is that we're wanting to enable it. But you don't have to use this with us. You don't have to use us to stream to use this
So
product.
this is kind of it's set aside, but it can be a part of the
We couldn't keep it to just
ecosystem
our customers.
of
No, we put it to the side because we want to. If you're just going to Facebook, if you're just going to YouTube, or using anybody else that does paid live streaming for the benefits that improvements that it gives you, you can still use this. It's an incredible tool to help.
So let's talk about latency, because that's going to be an issue. That's going to be a question that listeners are going to have, or churches are going to have. Like, is it going to be a delay? What is the latency, and how did you guys equate this for a solution?
Yeah, this is where a lot of the magic happens. And there's 3 levels of latency. The first level is how long does it take from when I hit a button on a fader, on a mute, or I slide a fader? How long does it take for that command to get to the console? It is super fast. It's like, how long does it take for the speed of light to transfer from place to place? And if it's just across the country, it's like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 seconds. I'm sorry, 20, 30, 40, 50 milliseconds, which is 1/20th of a second. So the controls are virtually instantaneous. I'm sorry, they feel instantaneous. If you were to have this console next to the controller and you slid it up, it would be like perfectly in time with it. The audio takes a little bit more time to come back because we have to capture it and then sample it and then compress it and then send it and then uncompress it. I'm sorry, and then relay it, so it has to kind of go through it. It's just a little bit more time, and that maybe is in the, I don't know, 300 millisecond range, in ideal networking situations.
Mhm.
And then on the video side, it can be more like uh, closer to over half a second, maybe closer to a second. And all three of those numbers, though, they get a little bit longer if the network isn't perfect. And sometimes the data doesn't always make it, and people have to send retries. And so when the data is not perfect, it'll drift, maybe like to a second, another second to be like maybe 2 or 3 seconds if the network's not great. But you know what? It's enough for you to still mix. It's so much better than what people are living with now with, having to wait for the live stream to go through YouTube. It's like, 2 minutes. I don't know,
Yeah,
like a minute and
yeah,
a half.
yeah, yeah. I
And so that's
mean,
one. Go ahead.
so you kind of nailed all of the questions that I have. I would probably say, what would be the ability, what is your biggest selling point to a church? If you had to say one, two, and three, what are the three bullet points you say is a selling?
Um, that's a hard thing because there's so many benefits. But if I had to only pick one, it's that it allows you to have somebody. It's simple enough that allows somebody to help out with a live stream. So if we're thinking about the small church, they're having a hard time getting volunteers to help out with things. They really are. And now you just whoever's watching from afar, I have a simple enough interface that you can reliably now help me with a live stream that you can't mess up. And that's what gets people over the hurdle. That's what's so I think so game changing about this is that we've set the stage to make it so that it's simple enough that someone can safely do this from anywhere, and it's easy to. So it's bringing somebody in that wasn't there before.
So what's been the feedback of the kind of the early adopters of your eco, um, I guess R&D?
Yeah, I mean the feedback's been good. I actually have. I mean, if you want me to, I can give you a. I don't know if you were expecting this. You were not expecting me to. We just started asking them, hey, do you mind if we take a video? So this guy gave us permission. So I don't know if you can, let me switch it to hear from Donald Raymond. He's in he's at Heatherwood First Baptist Church in Noonan, Georgia. So I'm going to switch the video so you can see him and see what he has to say.
Yeah, so right away, one of the first things I did was I just finished up the worship set and had my laptop with me that day. So I went over into the fellowship hall as the sermon was getting started, pulled up the connection that I had made. I think that Wednesday during rehearsal, and just immediately started to listen to the sermon and make sure that
Wow,
my pastor, mic was at a good volume and that the EQ was good, the gate wasn't too aggressive, things like that. And I could check all those things right there in that connection that I had made without walking up into the sound booth and potentially damaging morale for the volunteer that week, right? And reaching over him to make an adjustment on the board. It just I avoided that and I avoided the disruption. Live sound was doing their thing and I was able to go manage and check in on the broadcast separately and it just gave me a lot of confidence. And then very quickly, I was able to, make those adjustments and then go have a seat and enjoy the sermon with my family, with the rest of the congregation.
wow.
So I love that aspect of it, being able to go put myself in the same environment that my listeners are in and then be able to hear it the way they're going to hear it.
Yeah,
That
that's the same stuff we were talking about. Yep.
yeah. So let me ask you this. I know this is geared towards churches, but have you noticed any unexpected industries or user groups wanting to adopt the platform?
Not yet, but we haven't looked too hard outside. We haven't looked too far outside of it. I really think that the opportunity is sharpest right now with churches. And I know there's business chances to do in other places. We had someone who said, "Oh, this would be great for me to do IEM mixes for concerts." You can imagine, right, how powerful that would be, because if you're doing an IEM mix for one of the performers, it doesn't help for you to be in the venue for it, right? So that's an idea that makes a lot of sense. The other idea that really makes a lot of sense, that works for a church but also works for a lot of other places, is just to have someone remote to help out and do front of house. So when there's a funeral happening, like, or there's a Wednesday night event where there's not a lot of people that are planning to be there, it's hard to sometimes drive somebody in, and may not want to pay somebody to go,
Hmm.
but there might be somebody that says, "Hey, I'm happy to pitch in and help. I know the equipment so well that I can do it as if I'm there in person." Right? Give them a chance to do it. So those are the kinds of ideas that I know are possible. I mean, it's really no different than what we've done in changing our lives in the last 5 years with remote work. People working from
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
This is just now. I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised that people haven't done what we've done sooner. I really am. But it's it's a privilege to be able to offer this to folks. I think part of the problem is just a really hard technical problem to solve, and that's why it's taken us so long to do this. And we've got some great. We just have an incredible team of people that have been working together on this for a long time.
So how is because I see it's a waiting list. This has to be very long. This has to be a very long
The
waiting list,
response
sir.
has been good. Yeah, and we want to clear the waiting list as fast as we can, but I just can't. And I want to make sure that the people that have experiences are having good experiences. And as we ramp this up, we have a lot of. Fortunately, we have lived through COVID, and I'll never forget. I mean, we had an increase in usage. It was 20x in 1 month. From like it was like April went from like whatever it was to
I
like
can imagine now
20x.
that I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
All it was all hands on deck to keep the servers alive. I mean, it's like it felt like things were going to start melting down, because it was so high. But so we've learned how to deal with scale, but this is a different kind of scale. This is a new technology, so we want to be a little bit cautious with it. But I think maybe we've been too cautious, candidly, because we've had technology for a while, and but we know we got one shot at doing this really, really well, and so
Right.
that's why we've been so patient till now. So we're going to roll people out when we're comfortable rolling more in, but I will say we're definitely honoring the order of when folks come in. We're also maybe biasing a little bit on if you kind of jump into our Discord community too. We've got a Discord community that people can weigh in, and after you sign up, it sends you a little link. Maybe join the community, and so um, yeah. Hopefully, we'll. The other thing that's I'm thinking and getting excited about is all the other additional features and functionalities we want to add. We have such a long list of new things that we think would be really great to help these workflows as we're hearing what people's needs are, and we want to adjust for it.
So let me ask you this. So right now we're dealing with level. Are you looking at compression EQ? Or are you trying to keep it just as like this, just mix with the level and all the EQ and the compression will happen on the console?
We have access to all the data that's in the console. So it's just a matter of time before we can give the next most important thing people need. And we know it's important for people to do channel dynamics too. And so we've had people, we've been experimenting with that, and we've had betas testing with that for months now. So, now that we're towards commercialization of a lot of these pieces, hopefully we'll be showcasing that to folks as fast as we can, and people will not be disappointed. It is awesome.
So this is going to be a subscription based.
We're going to have to, so we are going to charge a little bit more money for the pro things people want. Um, not a ton. It's not going to be a massive amount of money, but it's going to be. I don't know if we've figured out what the absolute, what the precise price is going to be, but it's not going to be any orders of magnitude more than what we sell for now. Listen, I want everybody to be able to use it, and if we make it too expensive, people won't.
Right.
And so the intent is to get it in people's hands, but it also costs a lot of money to build all the other things people are going to want to have too. So we have to be smart about what it is we invest in to make sure we have enough money to make the next thing they want.
Right. So when do you think ideally is the launch? Is it going to be
Oh, but
2025? Is it going to be
oh no, it's
summer?
definitely of remote mix. The software agent
Yes.
that is that's not months away. That's somewhere between days and weeks away. So I think that we'll have the software agent. You listen, anybody, all BoxCast customers, if they have a BoxCast Spark, can do this now, and they've been able to do that for months. And we have our software agent that takes away the need to have the boxes. By the way, the box is that's the most incredible live streaming hardware product
it's a
they'll ever
great,
buy.
it's great encoder.
It's
Yeah.
awesome, but we don't want that to be a holdup. So if people want to download the software, we're going to be making it available for folks. You know, I'm expecting to start to sprinkle out more on the wait list even this week to try out the software agent. So it's just days away from us making it available to folks.
This is amazing. I just want to let you know, man, this is amazing, and I'm extremely excited about it. I'm really happy that this product exists, because it just makes tech and
Prentiss,
church come together.
well, I have people saying, "Wait a minute, are you saying I can go on vacation?" I had one guy
That's
say,
so
"Listen,
true.
if I'm out at church on Sunday, they don't do church." In now this is a more remote part of America where there's not as many people and it's not a big community, and so like they got one guy that knows how to run the
Yeah,
tech,
yeah,
right? But think about people that want to go on vacation, but they feel like they're shackled because they have to be the first and last out to make everything work. And
yeah.
it's like now if you have a junior, you can kind of get them most of the way there. You can be on a beach somewhere, maybe mixing and helping them out if they need something.
Right,
Like maybe you get a chance to take a vacation for once.
right.
I think that's one of the really neat things about this is that it allows people to not have to be on site to make adjustments in real time.
Great, great. Gordon, I'm so glad you called me, and I'm so glad you got me off the couch, because now I'm holding the bull by the horns, and excited to bring this product to my audience. But before we get out of here, we have a game that we call 30 Seconds and Gone. This is 5 questions: yes, no, true, false. Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1. What was your favorite childhood cereal?
Oh, that's got to be probably honeycomb.
Honeycomb. Okay.
Hmm.
Number 2. What did your mother cook that was probably the most worst thing you ever ate?
Oh, liver and onions. Oh,
Liver and onions? Oh man, I
oh,
haven't had that in ages. I haven't had that in ages.
I don't even see
Okay.
it in restaurants anymore.
What was your first pair of sneakers that you purchased?
My first what? My
Pair of
first.
sneakers that you purchased on your own?
Oh, good question. I th- they've got to be. I think it was New Balance, a
New
pair of
Balance?
New Balance, an old school pair of New Balance shoes were the first ones I ever bought myself. Yeah.
Who was your high school mascot?
The Cougars,
The Cougars.
the Black Hawk Cougars.
The Black Hawk Cougars. Last question. How do you feel about the Super Bowl?
Oh, I'm so disappointed the Bills aren't in it. I was hoping the Bills and Lions would play against each other because they're kind of like the Browns. And that's the closest we'll ever get is to watch them make it, and they didn't make it. So I'm a little disappointed. I sure hope that the Chiefs don't win. They've had enough of their fair share. Sorry, Chiefs fans.
There you have it. 30 seconds and gone. He passed the test with flying colors. I want to thank my guest. Hey, thank you so much for joining the show. I'm gonna say, like I always say, keep God first in everything you do, and we see you next time on the Church Sound Podcast.